Good afternoon, everybody. This is going to be one of the last tutorials that you will have to watch for Illustrator for this marking period and quite possibly the rest of the year, so I'm pretty sure you're excited to not have to hear my voice anymore. Let's go ahead and open up Illustrator and we will get started. So what we're going to do in this video is we are going to experiment with the brushes library, and we're also going to make our own custom brushes. So let's make a new artboard. And okay, so when you have your brushes palette or your brushes panel open, it's right here on the right hand side. If you don't have it open, it's the brushes inside what looks like a paint can. So go ahead and click that. The brushes that I have active right now are your basic. So I have my basic brush, the basic kind of rough brush, and this decorative brush, and then there's some different patterns in here too. But there are a lot more brushes than just this. Just like what we did with the swatches panels and the patterns panels and all of the menus, and what we did with the appearance panel and the graphic styles panel, there's also a brushes libraries menu. So if we click on the menu here, there are tons of brushes that we can use. So if we just start off with the arrows, and I'm going to move this over a little bit and select our paintbrush. If I click on this first arrow, so right away if I just paint a line here, it's basically going to give me that arrow. Now just like we do with everything else, we can change the stroke weight. So if I make this a lot bigger and I do that same kind of shape with that arrow, you're going to get a lot of different arrow. So if I keep going down the list of arrows here, you can see all the different types of arrows. Whatever one you select, if you have your paintbrush selected and you paint with it, you will get that type of arrow. So the more you curve your line, the more distorted the arrow will be, or whatever brush you choose. There are some that come preset with colors, and there's also some in here. I was looking for these. So these ones aren't arrows, they're more just like those pointed fingers. But again, the more you curve the brush around, the more distorted it's going to be. It will follow whatever path you set for it. So just this brush alone, or this library of arrows alone, has tons of arrows for you to look through. That one's a little too distorted for me, so I'm going to go ahead and make that one much smaller. That one looks a little bit better. Whatever you pick is here for you. So thinking about what you need to do when you make something, all of these menus and all of these libraries available to you can shorten your workload. And just like what we had with the swatches and the graphic styles menu, we have tons of different parts in here. So these are the standard ones, and again, if I just keep going through, if I click on this arrow, it'll show me the next one, and then I believe the next one is artistic brushes. So we have calligraphy, charcoal, ink, paintbrush, scroll pen, watercolor. Just so you can see what those look like, let's go ahead and click on one and scroll down a little bit. So as you're going through, this is all the calligraphy ones. If I click on here, this is more of just kind of a pen style brush. I go over to the chalk, it'll give you more rough brush, and same thing going through. If I click through to the ink, these are the ones I was looking for. Let me go ahead and clear this up. So if I want to delete some of these, I can go through and select them all. Notice how you have all these anchor points. When you make one of these brushes in Illustrator, you can take your direct selection tool and say I want to just change a part of this brush. So this is the one where I had the hand on the end of the line. I can just manipulate that part, or I can just manipulate the handle and change the curve a little bit. So unlike what we were doing with Photoshop, you can have a lot more control over your paintbrushes in Illustrator. But I did want to clean some of this up, so let me go ahead and take my black selection tool, select all these, and I'm just going to delete them, and go back to my paintbrush. So these were kind of like the splatter ones that we had in Photoshop. So these are called scattered brushes. So if I select one of these ones in here and I paint, it's going to kind of scatter it along whatever line I paint here. There were a couple other ones down here. So this one is more of a straight line one where it will stretch out the splatter, but not all of them are like that. This one, for example, is just one kind of straight line, and this one again is a scattered one. So it kind of spreads it out over whatever it is you're painting. Part of your assignment will be experimenting with these different brushes. Just again to show you, there's borders, and if I painted with this one, don't have my paintbrush selected right now. So if I painted with this border style, it'll give me whatever that border is. If I needed to make it bigger so you could see it, let's take it up to 10. If I painted with that, those shapes will kind of appear from the borders. So whatever patterns I find in here, I would paint with. Same thing with these decorative ones. There's tons of things for you to look through. So part of your assignment, again, will be painting with these, and then the other part of your assignment is going to be making your own brush. So let's go ahead and get into that. For that, I'm going to make a new artboard. I'm going to make a paintbrush out of my name. So I'm going to go ahead and take my type tool, and right now my size is really small, so I'm going to bump it up to 72. I'm just going to type my name here. But that is also really small, so I'm going to make it a lot bigger. Now, in order to make this into a paintbrush, what I'm going to do is create the outlines of these. So now I have all of these as shapes. I can make all of these shapes, and literally you can make a paintbrush out of anything. To do that, all you have to do is come over here to your paintbrush menu and just click on the button where it says New Brush. It's right next to the trash can. So if I click on here, it's going to ask me what style of brush I would like to make. I'm going to make an art brush out of my name. So I'm going to select art brush and hit OK. Now there are other things that you can change about your brush, but for right now I'm not going to explain that. We are just going to stick with a straightforward creation of this brush. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. You'll notice that my name appears in my brush panels. Have this brush selected. All I have to do is click on my paintbrush tool, and if I paint with this, I will paint my name. Depending on which way I have the line, it will stretch it out to kind of fill whatever direction I have it going. And the more distorted the line, the more distorted my name. So this will be the first thing that you do. Let me go ahead and clear these off. Take my selection tool and delete them. And let me show you how to create a brush out of something else. So let's say I'm making a shape, or I'm making a design of something. What I'm actually going to make is a stop sign. So I have only 6 sides there, and I need 8. Let me go ahead and rotate this. Okay, so I'm going to fill this with red, make a stop sign. And let me get my type tool. Make that white. And we're going to increase it. So here's my stop sign, and then I'm going to take a line and put it down here as the pole. I'm going to go ahead and make that gray. I'm going to make the stroke the same gray and increase that a little bit so the pole looks like it belongs with that stop sign. Okay, so now before I make this into a paintbrush, I actually need to create the outlines out of my text. And now what I'm going to do is take my selection tool and select every part of this. So I have my text, my red shape, and my pole. So if I select the new paintbrush button, I'm going to make this an art brush again. Sorry about the bell. Click OK. And this time I'm going to stretch between guides. So if I take these black dotted lines that appear and I put them just so they're only on the pole part of my stop sign, when I paint with this brush, only the pole will be really kind of distorted or stretched out. The stop sign should remain the same, and I'm actually going to change the direction from top to bottom to top. And I'm going to rename my art brush, in case you didn't know that you can rename them, and I'm going to name this stop sign. And then I'll click OK. So you'll see my stop sign appears here. So let me go ahead and select the paintbrush. My stop sign is selected. So if I go ahead and paint this line, the stop sign is deformed because I made a kind of wavy line, but if I make just a straight line, it should remain kind of similar. So I can stretch, for the most part, just the pole of the stop sign, and my main shape will remain the same. So you can do this a lot with flowers, grass, trees, anything where you need to extend part of the brush, but not the other part of your brush. The last aspect of making custom brushes that I wanted to show you was the making your own scatter brushes. So if let's just use the stop sign since it's here. If I use this stop sign, and I have everything selected, and I go to New Brush. This time if I select Scatter Brush and then click OK, I'll get a different set of options. So I can call this Scattered Stop Sign. And right now the size is 100%. So if I make this paintbrush and then I were to paint with it and scatter some stop signs all over the place, they would all be this size. So what I'm going to actually do is decrease the size. And I'm also going to decrease the spacing so the stop signs will be closer together. So let's just keep them both at 30%. And I'm going to click OK. So if I go over to my paintbrush and I take this stop sign, I actually want to paint with it for you to see it, and I make a line with it, what you're going to see is the stop signs kind of scattered on that line. So say you were making a picture of a forest or a patch of grass that had flowers in it. If this stop sign were a flower or a tree instead, I could paint them all over the place and fill them in quickly instead of having to just do each one individually. So the scatter one can be very helpful as well. So this is what you will do for this part of the assignment. You will end up making your own brushes, and you will also experiment with the brushes in the custom library.